Believe me, it's no fun delivering not so great news, but I pride myself that whenever you come to this channel, you're always getting my honest opinion and honest evaluation of what's going on. You want to know what's really happening, don't you? Right? Well, this is what's really happening with Wonder Woman 1984. And you can at least be happy that this is just the beginning of the adventure, of the box office adventure. And this is also why you make your deals before your movie opens. Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot are booked solid. They actually can't even really take on any more bookings. And maybe that's a good thing, because I don't know if they'll be getting any more offers after this. Until they prove themselves with their next picture. You're always as good as your last film. Also, will this make Warner Brothers finally reconsider their director-driven approach to franchise filmmaking instead of having a driving business force like Kevin Feige? Again, Wonder Woman 1984's box office saga is just beginning, but these are things for us to keep in mind as that saga unfolds. So yes, hello and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where it looks like the true villain of Wonder Woman 1984 might be audience reception. Don't I mean pandemic? Maybe not. We're going to talk about some audience scores, some preliminary audience scores out of China. China has very different tastes than the West, so that's something to also take into account, but this is surprising. Now, in China, where the box office is relatively back to normal, or maybe the government's just saying it is, which is why Chinese movies are suspiciously doing so much better than everybody else. But anyway, we have to take them at face value because that's what we've been doing. The movie, Wonder Woman 1984, not only opened in second place with $18.8 million, far lower than the $40 million that was expected. The 2017 film opened with $37.6 million. But the audience scores, as I said, were low. It got an 8 from a service called Moyan. The trades say that is low for a Hollywood superhero film. So some of you might be like, I love an 8, Grace. Well, apparently for Hollywood superhero movies, that's low. The 2017 film on that service got an 8.6. And on another service, Douban, I'm like giving European pronunciations to these Chinese services, so I'm not quite sure how they're. If anyone's, by the way, in China, would love to hear your thoughts on how the movie was received this weekend. No spoilers in your thoughts on the movie, though, if you've seen it. And it got a 7.1 on that service, which was the same as the first Wonder Woman movie. Now, that movie went on to make $90 million total in China, whereas it placed 25th overall for the year. And that was Wonder Woman's biggest foreign market. So the Chinese audience is important here. Now, interestingly, fascinatingly, I think this is a conversation we might be having a lot going forward. But Patty Jenkins revealed in an interview this past week, and some of you have been asking me about this, that the big third act fight with Ares was studio interference and that she did not care for it. Maybe if she'd cared for it, she would have done a better job executing that request from the studio. And that's another, I think, important thing to remember. You know, once you get your marching orders, it's in everybody's best interest for you to put a smile on your face and march with some pizzazz in your step. But anyway, she said she was unhappy with that. But this time, because the first movie did so well, Warner Brothers let her do what she wanted, which she's also been discussing. She was talking to, I think, Aaron Sorkin, and she was like, Warner Brothers was nervous looking at this footage, but I told them, don't worry, when it's all done, everyone's going to love it. Let's see. Because as I've told you, there's no big fight in the third act, actually. That's what Patty Jenkins wanted to do this time, so there's no big fight whatsoever. And as I pointed out in my non-spoiler review, don't worry, no spoilers here, there is a distinct lack of action in the film. And the action that is there is diminished by Wonder Woman only playing defense, plus another factor you'll discover when you see the movie. Maybe those were not good creative choices in hindsight because it diminished again the quality of the action in the film. I felt the film was able to compensate with other factors, and we'll have to see how audiences feel, but so far, Chinese audiences are not impressed. While some studio interference is obviously bad, sometimes it's quite good, which is why it's just as important to hire the right studio executives as it is directors, etc. Also, again, as I just pointed out with Patty Jenkins, it's imperative that directors can incorporate notes and execute directives effectively. For instance, take Tony Gilroy's last-minute overhaul of Rogue One for Disney. He did an amazing job. Maybe it's because he was overhauling someone else's work, so it wasn't personal. It was a patch job instead of having to redo what he'd fallen in love with the first time. Maybe, but I think that's the only instance I think we've ever seen of somebody else coming in and overhauling someone else's work. I think that is not something I would want to see studios make a regular situation, especially because of the appalling situation, of course, with the Snyder Cut. Overall, Wonder Woman 1984 debuted overseas with a total of $38.5 million, and Warner Brothers had expected $60 million. Oh, so bad. And Tenet, they expected that because Tenet debuted back in August with $53 million, not including China. Wonder Woman 1984 opened in China this weekend, as we just discussed. Now, Tenet, when it did hit China, the same weekend as it did the United States, it opened with 29.8. Substantially more than Wonder Woman's debut, and it went on to get a total of $66.6 million, about half of Nolan's most successful non-Batman film in China to date, Interstellar, with $121.9 million. Wow, they loved that movie. China really seems to like space movies. All right, so anyway, to be fair, the pandemic is much worse now than it was in August. For instance, Mexico and the UK shut down what theaters were still open halfway through the weekend because of surging coronavirus rates. And while technically Wonder Woman 1984 is now supposed to be playing in 41 countries, some of you who live in those countries have told me that's not actually true because most theaters are still closed or didn't think that it was economically feasible to reopen even though the country would allow them to. And those of you who did go to the theater have said that your theaters were mostly empty. But it's the audience score to me that's the most troubling, because if the movie was really incredibly well received, that would trickle down to where it's available digitally. Although that's another problem that we're going to get to in a moment. So especially, I also think the actual reaction to the movie is crucial when it comes to repeat viewings, which are so crucial to the success of superhero blockbusters. Now, again, I can't wait to watch the movie again. In fact, when the movie started, I knew immediately that I was going to watch it again and that I was excited to do so. I was like, oh my God, I just made an appointment with myself to watch it again. And that appointment is Sunday, December 27th. You guys voted on that time at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to do a watch along. You have to have a copy of the film yourself to watch along. I'm sorry, most of the world. But we'll have a really great time. But I also have to say that those of you who didn't go to see the film, you not only told me your theaters were mostly empty, but that you loved it. So are we looking at another divisive superhero movie? Not this again, goddammit. But for those of you who've already seen Wonder Woman 1984, with no spoilers, I would be curious what you think of it from a commercial perspective. Not how you personally felt about it, but put on your business hat and say, do you think that this would appeal to a wide swath of moviegoers? We'll find out this Friday how a lot of people feel when the movie hits the United States in theaters and on HBO Max, arguably its biggest audience now that we know how many people are turning up in China. Wonder Woman 1984 will also hit PVOD in Canada, although where, the studio hasn't clarified. Very weird ad campaign. And the UK will get it on Sky for 48-hour rental, but not until January 13th. You'd think they would have stepped that up with, London getting locked down into Tier 4, but apparently, so far, no word on that just yet. But how many people will see it in the United States? That's the next big question, and we'll get our answer next weekend, or around then. It depends how long it takes for HBO Max to update the subscription numbers on HBO Max. As of December 8th, after the Wonder Woman 1984 announcement that it was going to HBO Max, they popped up 4 million. They got an additional about 4 million subscribers. It went up to 12.6 activations, because, HBO Max has this weird thing where a lot of people could have it if they wanted, but they don't know it and haven't activated it, or have chosen not to. But a crucial thing was that on Thursday, they finally reached a deal to make it available on Roku. How many of you have subscribed to HBO Max in the past few days? And if not, what are you waiting for? Are you not going to? There is no more free trial, by the way, and people might just be waiting to sign up until Christmas Day or maybe even Christmas Eve. How many of you have asked Santa for HBO Max this year? Heck, on Christmas Day, you might even decide to cave. You might be like, I'm not going to do it. But then you'll be sitting there and be like, I could be watching Wonder Woman 1984 right now. Let's do it. So you'll sign up on the spot. But will people spend the money? For instance, Tenet hit PVOD on Tuesday, finally, but has already been unseated from number 1 by The Croods 2. The Croods 2! It was a very good movie, but so was Tenet. I really enjoyed Tenet. They're both $20, and in fact, you buy Tenet for the $20, and you only rent The Croods 2. So you would think that Tenet would get the bigger audience. HBO Max, by the way, is still $14.99 a month, but you can get it for 6 months at 20% off, which is $70. That's still a very big ask right now for a lot of people who are hurting economically. And by the way, if you're interested in that deal and you're still not quite sure, that deal is available until January 15th. Of course, Warner Brothers is very worried about piracy, which is why they debuted the film overseas a week early. Yet, as we just discovered, it's not really playing anywhere overseas when it comes to it. And there's no legal digital option for what is, about 50% of the audience of the original film. The original film had a 50-50 split between domestic and overseas audiences. Now, of course, you can also see Wonder Woman 1984 in theaters in the United States on Friday, although COVID is surging here at alarming rates, just like it is overseas. In fact, London is freaking everybody out. I don't know if you saw the footage of everyone fleeing the city last night because the shutdown was today, but at the same time, did they take their new COVID with them? That's right. London is reporting they have a new strain of coronavirus, which so far seems to be 70% more contagious. Holy crap. But they don't know if it has any more worse repercussions. It's just more likely that you can get it. So that's all they know so far. Because it's new. It's like we're living in a freaking movie. It's hard to watch movies when you're living in one. All right, so anyway, I don't know. We'll talk about viewing habits in a minute, but it seems like even people are distracted about the holidays and their concerns, and so that could be an issue as well. I mean, in the past, Star Wars has done quite well being released for the holidays, but maybe Christmas Day, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they should have released it on, the 18th for people to watch everywhere. All right, so in theaters, on that note, Monster Hunter, a big splashy VFX movie with Mila Jovovich did hit theaters this weekend and couldn't even match the usual 4 million we've been seeing. At 2.2 million. Oh my God, the hits just keep on coming. That's Mila Jovovich's lowest opening weekend of all time and a sliver of the debuts of her Resident Evil films. I didn't care for the movie, as you saw with my review, but it should have at least hit 4 million. That one is definitely the fault of the pandemic. I mean, it's got a 69% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. There's no cinema score, by the way, because it looks like that company isn't. Those scores are collected in person at different theaters. They go out to random theaters, and it looks like they're not willing to send out their agents with this current coronavirus situation. As for the other big movie in the marketplace, The Croods 2, which again just hit PVOD at number 1, is up to 84.5 million worldwide, whereas the first film made 587 million worldwide. Wow! So, is Warner Brothers' simultaneous HBO Max release plan for all of 2021 not only a good idea, but the only way to go? It's obviously still too early to tell, but streaming movies is clearly creating a different watch pattern in consumers. And, like, for instance, it seems like people don't feel like they need to watch things with the same immediacy if they do if it hits theaters. Although Wonder Woman 1984 is not a really big spoilerific movie. It doesn't. The end credit scene has now been leaked. I'm not going to spoil it here for you, but it doesn't lead to any other movies. So Wonder Woman 1984 isn't. It's not really engineered to get people talking in a franchise what's next kind of way, which I think is really also another crucial factor to the Marvel formula, the MCU formula. But then also, I think people have very different ideas of what they're willing to pay for the same content when it's delivered digitally. People have a very different idea of what's a fair price point, even though it's so much cheaper to watch it at home. Even though HBO Max is the most expensive streaming service, this is still cheaper than if you were to go to the multiplex. But people feel that it's not the same experience, so therefore it should not cost as much or even close to as much, interestingly. Of course, everyone also needs to love the movie to really test this strategy, and we still don't know if that's going to be the case with Wonder Woman 1984. Can only Black Widow really test this? It might seem at this point that that's the case. Although, let's see if everybody likes Black Widow. Everyone likes to dump on Scarlett Johansson, too. I mean, I don't know. Some of her comments about, casting and the roles she can play they got her pretty good on Saturday Night Live last night. They got her own husband to make the joke. But, I do think she's a fabulous Black Widow, and it took really just ridiculously too long to give her own movie. So let's see if people are still hating on Black Widow for no reason when that movie comes out. So anyway, what was everybody streaming this weekend? Well, over on iTunes, after The Croods 2 and Tenet, new release Greenland debuted at number 3, proving once again that Gerard Butler has carved out a nice little B-action movie niche for himself. Christmas movies also, understandably, once again dominated, but so did two new, I'd say, C-level action movies. But they're in the top 10, and that's one, by the way, starred John McClane himself, Bruce Willis, because Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I don't want to hear it. Over on Netflix, the memory of Chadwick Boseman is so strong, as Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, his final film, shot to number 1, something a lot of other Netflix awards contenders have not been able to do this season. The Grinch also continues to be very popular over the holidays. For instance, the animated one was doing very well on Netflix as well before it was taken off the service, and you saw it very high up over on iTunes, where it's now available. Where it's still available. It's always on iTunes. But anyway, new Netflix originals, The Ripper and Tiny Pretty Things, also had strong debuts. And while all other series we've been talking about have disappeared from the top 10, including Selena, The Queen's Gambit is still up there. Oh, that's going to win a lot of awards, at least get a lot of nominations. I think it's going to at least get a lot of nominations. As for what's coming out for Christmas, here are your options. Wonder Woman 1984, of course, again, is in theaters and on HBO Max, and Soul will be on Disney Plus at no extra cost. Universal's News of the World, starring Tom Hanks, will also hit theaters on Christmas Day and then be available on PVOD about 17 days later, as we've been seeing. And then Shondaland finally gets some stuff over at Netflix. This is very exciting, as she debuts Bridgerton on Christmas Day as well. So what are you planning to watch on Christmas Day? I'm very excited. And if you'd like to participate in the Wonder Woman 1984 and Soul combo ticket montage for next week's Movie Math, here are your instructions. Basically, you have to prove that you actually were at the theater watching this movie or streaming it. So if you're at the theater, I need you to have your ticket stub in the photo, or you have to be standing in front of the poster at the theater, or in front of like the standee, or where you go in, like that. And then if you're at home, if you're streaming it on your TV or your computer, I need to see the menu load page on HBO Max or Disney Plus, right before you press play. It can be yourself, it can be a group pick. Have fun with it. I've already gotten some wonderful photos from those of you who ventured out to theaters this past weekend overseas. All right, and don't forget that watch along will be on December 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, and the deadline for your tickets is midnight, December 26th. I know that doesn't give you a lot of time, but Movie Math goes up on the 27th, and I need time to put them all together for the edit. So again, midnight, December 26th. Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.